But his emails. Democrats today demanding the White House turn over evidence on Jared Kushner using technology to avoid documentation of his messages. Instead of a private server, it's a private messaging app. Kushner deploying it to secretly talk with autocrats like the Saudi prince, a controversial relationship explored in a new book by Vicky Ward, my guest tonight, and the author of Kushner Inc., an account making waves right now, exploring how someone as central as Ivanka Trump managed to avoid facing Mueller's investigators thus far, while her husband Kushner did it for 9 hours and then broke his usual silence to say he didn't rely on Russian funds in business, which stoked questions about what else he got from Russia.
Let me be very clear. I did not collude with Russia, nor do I know of anyone else in the campaign who did so. I had no improper contacts. I have not relied on Russian funds for my businesses.
That Ivanka Trump asked to travel on Air Force One when it wasn't appropriate, raising questions about nepotism. A former Trump legal advisor says that Trump's famously TV-obsessed lawyers just didn't get it, the difference between a regular PR issue and a criminal investigation, noting problems about advisors becoming witnesses and new problems that were caused basically by the team being reckless and omnipresent. Author Vicky Ward joins me now, and Nick Ackerman is here for the legal perspective. I want to get right to it. You analyze a story about how Donald Trump asked an aide to help fire his kids because he didn't want to do it.
Yes. So when John Kelly became chief of staff, the president said, you know, I can find a way to send Jared and Ivanka home. You know, that they're vulnerable. You know, they're making my presidency vulnerable, make life so unpleasant for them that they come to me. You know, and they ask to go home. And John Kelly did exactly what he was asked to do. The problem was that the president, at the end of the day, couldn't pull the trigger. His daughter is his great Achilles heel.
What does it tell you that he put himself in this position? I mean, you don't have to bring your kids into the White House.
Well, I think, you know, this is one of the themes in the book, that, you know, Republicans who actually want to support Trump are really, really frustrated by the presence of Jared and Ivanka in the White House. I mean, Mark Corallo, the spokesman for the Trump's legal team, briefly, I mean, basically quit entirely because of them. It was precisely what you said, you know, at the opening of this segment, that, you know, they kept wandering in and out of the meetings between, you know, with the president and the president's lawyers, you know, that he had to hire once the special counsel and the investigation was underway, and they just didn't get it. They didn't get it.
But in fairness, Nick, Jared Kushner reportedly was a big proponent of firing James Comey. He said the Democrats would embrace it and it would be a unity moment for President Trump. Obviously, that was sage advice.
What great judgment he has, right?
I mean, the original sin, right?
Right, exactly. I mean, how ridiculous can you get? I mean, that just played into what Trump really wanted to do anyway. I mean, what you're describing really is the complete breakup of the attorney-client privilege that Donald Trump had with his lawyers.
Yes, and so, Don McGahn, by the way, was just, I mean, exasperated by it. So it's the bane of my existence.
Because now, if they want to call anybody, even these lawyers, before a congressional committee, how are they going to take attorney-client privilege? How can Trump even assert it if all of these other third parties, his kids, were walking in and out, part of the conversation? I mean, that, you know, if I were Jerry Nadler, I'd be looking at that as great evidence to put before the committee.
I'm curious, in drawing this portrait, what you think of their actual understanding in their own hearts when they're alone about the role nepotism has played in both of their lives, the privilege that they have. Here they were. I want to show a cameo they did in Gossip Girl back in the day when they had other types of privilege.
Sorry.
Thank you, Jared, and thank you, Ivanka, for marrying Jared and giving someone else a chance to win Bachelor this year. This is quite an honor.
How do they view those benefits they've had? Do they get it?
Look, I think everything we've seen, you know, the story that's just come out today, right, about the emails and the use of WhatsApp, these are two people who are naive and reckless because they have an extraordinary sense of self-importance. They, you know, they are extraordinarily unaware. They are disdainful of rules. They think that rules are for other people. I mean, you know,
Have you seen Star Wars?
I have.
Do you remember the last thing Luke says to the Emperor before the big battle with Vader?
What?
Your arrogance is your weakness.
There you go. I think that you... I should have... That would be a brilliant epigraph for my book, actually.
But where do you think
Can you
they
still
get
edit it, or is it not, after they print? What happens after they print it?
For
You
the
can't.
paperback. For the paperback.
Is it like a blog you can edit? No, people my age, we don't read anymore. We're out of time, Nick. Final thought.
Bottom line, where do they get all this? It's from their father.
Each of their fathers.
Each, yes.
The money or the judgment?
Both.
Both.
I like you two together. This could be a fallback Friday. Vicky Ward and Nick
Absolutely.
Ackerman.
Thank you.
Guys are great. Appreciate your
Thank
reporting.
you.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.